Today I'm going to show you how we can create our contour line project. So first, let's review what contour lines are. Contour lines are the lines you make when you're drawing an image. And a good way to remember that is the outside line or the edge plus the most important lines. So the ones that are inside. Outside lines plus the most important lines equal contour line. So when we're creating contour lines, observation is really important. That means using our eyes to look closely. And so what you're going to do when you're making contour lines is to look at your subject. So right now I'm going to show you my hand and find first the outside lines and then the most important lines. So contour lines are the outside lines and the most important lines inside the subject. For example, I can take this pumpkin. The outside lines would be the shape around my pumpkin. I would notice that it curves. It's not straight like I might think a pumpkin would have. It curves over. I go around and trace with my eyes, not actually with my hands. I'm not putting this onto a piece of paper. You are looking and finding all the shapes as you go around, and then the most important lines, which would probably be the lines coming down, maybe even the lines that I start to see in here, and there's even some bumps, and maybe I could add those in. The more you look at your subject, the more things you are going to see. And that is why using your observation skills is super important when you are drawing or painting or anything else that you are going to do from life. So for our project steps for our contour line project, you are going to choose 1 to 3 objects depending on how complicated they are. So if one of your objects is something really simple, you should add 1 or 2 more. But if you have a really hard object like a shoe that has so many details, you can do just 1 picture. But you're going to choose 3 objects that represent who you are. So I picked a bottle of lotion that is from Ireland, where my dad lives. I chose my sunglasses that are hearts because I love to view the world with kindness, and a whale because someone important gave it to me in my life. I observed each object in real life and then drew their contour lines. I did not trace, and I made sure that I drew really big to fill the page. I'm going to take you through how I made my project. So I made sure the whole time that I was always looking back at my subject. Right now I'm drawing the bottle of lotion. So I'm going to start with the outside lines, the lines that go around the edge. I did that straight line at the top, and now I notice that it starts to come in a little bit. The line is a little bit diagonal when I look at it on each side coming in, so it makes sort of a triangle, not really. And then I'm going to start to make the cap. So I made the top of the bottle, and now I'm going to look down and focus on the cap. I'm looking at every part as I go. I'm not just drawing a square because I think that's what the cap looks like. I notice that there is curved lines on them because when I look closely, my cap for my lotion bottle is round. I want to make sure that I show that those lines are round and not just straight across, because I'm really using my observation skills. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to, once I have those outside lines, I have the shape of my bottle, I'm going inside and I'm finding all of those important lines, the things that you can see very clearly on the bottle. So now that I'm done with my cap, I'll move back up to the top because it's not just a straight line, it's got all of these little details in it. So I'll go through and I'll add those. Remember to really take your time and look at what you're doing. Don't just make up things because you think they're there. I'm always taking the time to look at my object and then look back at my paper so that I don't miss anything that is on the bottle when I am drawing. So I made sure I even included that little dark part. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to include the most important word on the bottle. It says Innis. It's the name of it. But when I go down and do the next parts of the bottle with the words underneath, I'm not really concerned about those. Those aren't as important as the name, so I might just do a little squiggly line. I'm going to make sure that I do include those circles. I don't really have to pay attention too closely about what's going on inside them, but I'm going to make sure that I have those 2 circles. And if you make a mistake, you can just make your line a little bit thicker. Like my circle wasn't perfect, but that's okay. I can just go back in and try it again. And then I'm just going to draw, again, like squiggly lines so you can kind of see what's happening on the bottle, but it's not the most important part. So I'm just going to improvise and add a little bit of my own. Now I'm ready for my next subject. So I'm going to start drawing this whale eraser. And this whale eraser is pretty small, but I'm going to start making it look bigger because I don't want it to be a little tiny spot on my page. I really want to be able to see it. Right now I'm starting with the tail. So I'm looking at those lines and shapes. And our negative space activity from Tuesday is a good example. You can always go back to that to look at what shapes you see on the outside of your subject first. Not just looking at the inside. You can notice what the outside should look like. So I realized I made that a little bit too thin. I want to make it bigger, so I'm just going to make that the part that was blue because there are 2 separate parts for my whale. So the blue part going down, and I'm going to start moving up to the top where the tail comes. And I noticed that that's like a big triangle shape too on the outside. So I'm looking at the outside shape to make my outside lines. It curves and goes back in, so that I can get the water sprouting out of the whale. So I'm going to make sure I look at those shapes. It's a nice big arch, and then it comes around and up. I'm going really slowly at this part because I am always looking back at the picture of the image that I'm drawing so that I know what comes next. I'm not just making it up. So I'll do that again all the way around the whale, making sure I get those outside lines first, and then I will go move into the inside lines. And now I'm ready for those inside lines. So I'll go through and add in the little lines that make the whale look more like it does in real life. So I'm taking something in real life, observing it, and using these lines to show what it looks like on a piece of paper. The last object I'm going to draw is these heart sunglasses. So I'm just going to speed up the video so you can watch me do these ones. I'm not going to talk over it since you listened to me talk through my first 2 objects. All right, artists, so as I finish up, it is now your turn. So get some objects and start tracing those contour lines with your eyes and then drawing them onto paper. Happy creating!